last video, and I avoided starting the video by saying alright. But then I said it within the first 6 seconds. But whatever. So let's wrap this up. We're going to actually create, I said in the beginning of our last video, this video we're actually going to create sliders. Just expose those parameters and functions like we talked to. We're not going to be creating any custom ones. No. Kind of don't want to go over that still. And then test it out on a few things maybe, and see how it works, see how we like it, and go from there. Hopefully you guys have found this helpful and have seen ideas that spawn from it. We could have stopped at these leaks, and been happy and been done, or we can create one node for this, create one that makes, this kind, so on and so forth, and you could actually get multiple different things out of this. But you take it as far as you want, create whatever you want. Showing a process, showing how to get the ideas, how to get the ideas rolling, and how Substance Designer makes it easy to get those ideas out there and try different things and delete them and start over. Sound like a broken record sometimes. So I'm just going to get going. So we know that we wanted to expose here because we were smart and made these notes. We didn't note this. Let's go ahead and put a switch note here, add comment, switch between normal usage. Okay, so if we're using a normal, maybe mask, let's put mask. There we go. Switch between mask use. Perfect. Alright, so we have this one. This one's probably one of our more important ones. Things like that. Usually this is a good time to go back and actually see what sliders you're actually not going to need, because you're going to expose a bunch, and so many times I expose these and then notice that I have ones that do the exact same damn thing. Excuse me, I have to burp. So it's a good time to go back and clean them up, because if you can save on calculations, the better. Every time you expose a function, that means it'll be changing other things, which makes the node run slower. So the less you can expose, the better. Plus, you don't want to give too many controls. I've found that keep it simple. Too many controls gets overwhelming. People start being like, well, why is there this, and this? Keep it simple. So let's go ahead and start adding all that stuff in. Oh, and we're going to also, add our inputs so this actually becomes what it needs to become. So first things first, we're not going to adjust this. We're not going to adjust these. So let's grab this guy. We'll start here. Expose high channel for last adjustment. So we'll just go values. If you go up here, you can either have your graph or just do values. And we're going to expose the high level. Let's go here to expose. Level in high. Go ahead and press OK. So that one's good. Leaks. So we're just going to do the intensity. We're not going to do the samples, so let's just go ahead and go expose intensity. Okay. This switch, go ahead and expose this guy. Warp, we're not going to adjust the warp, we're going to leave that how it is. Okay. So this one you'll probably want to do both, and the other thing is it's going to expose as position, so we'll go ahead and hit OK there. But if we go here to the contrast, it's going to be intensity again, I believe. Or not. So go ahead and grab that. We want both of those, and we want our mask. So for this one, we're actually going to hit new. Never mind, it's nice enough to rename it. I lied. Alright, so that's all that. Alright, so let's go to my favorite section that I always complain about. The input parameters over here, and we're going to name things properly and make it, maybe add a description to it. Like I said, try to author things as much as possible so people know what you're doing. So level and high. So we can leave the identifier of that, but let's label it something. So let's see. Adjust just brightness. So let's see. Let's just put brightness. Sure. And we could put under here description, adjust brightness value of leaks. Okay. Cool. Intensity. This was... Okay, so this is the how far the streaks go. So we can put length. So length of streaks or leaks for the description. Okay. Go on to the switch. So this switch is this will be mask switch. Switch between using your AO and cavity to not using it. Okay. Position. This is our, so let's see, noise level and noise contrast. Now, a lot of these times these names can be really tough to come up with because you want to name them. It might make sense to you, but you need to make up a name that people can look at and be like, oh, that's what that does. Sometimes they will have to play with it to figure it out, but the mask, crack mask, mask spread. The better you start naming things and thinking about it, it's simpler, the faster people will cling on to what you're doing. Let's see, so let's see, mask out, vertical stripes, vertical areas. So yeah, that's why it does help to put a description, because someone might see crack mask spread. What the hell does that mean? Sounds like a it sounds like crack spread. I don't know. And they might want to look at they might avoid using the button, or they might use it and be like, okay, it does this. And someone else might actually come up with a better name. Go with it. You know, if someone else looks at it and goes, hey, you should name it this, go ahead. I'm just naming these real quick. Just because. The next thing I like to do is to position these in a good order. What I mean by a good order is kind of the order of use. So really, you're going to probably want to do length first, okay? Because you're going to want to see how long it is. And then your noise level and contrast. And then brightness. And then lastly, I would do the crack mask spread. And then the mask switch. That's how I would position it, just because I feel like that's kind of the proper workflow if I was using it. The other thing is there was a few nodes here that broke at a certain point, and I don't remember which ones they were. Let's think. Oh yes, it was this mask one, I believe. So let's go to our crack mask and let's test it real quick. I believe if it hits 1, or if it hits 0, if it hits 0. If it hits 0, it breaks, okay? So what we're going to do is put a minimum of 0.01. Okay, this tells us it won't go to 0, so it won't break. Just kind of put that hand holding in there a little bit. And then, I think that was the only thing that breaks. So let's go ahead and test our node. We'll hit the piece of paper to get our buttons going. We'll go ahead and take a look here. I'll say, alright, length. Alright, we can make stuff longer. This does break once it hits 16. 15, still kind of broken. Now see, the thing before constraining it is to say, alright, maybe if we change the contrast, does that help? Nope, man, it makes it worse. That makes it worse. Noise level still makes it worse. Alright, so we want to constrain this to 15. So let's go ahead and come out of here. It's going to ask if you want to save your current defaults. Go ahead and hit no. And we're going to go to our length and constrain the maximum to 15. Okay. And then we'll go back to playing around up here. We were already seeing that these were working, so noise level. So I was giving us more runoff, and then we could up our length, up our contrast. So basically the noise level, so we're dropping it down. If we go into our graph here, we're basically making our entire mask black. So that's why everything's kind of not as streaky anymore. If we give it more more like that, you know, our streaks come back. Our individual streaks come back. Something to think about for maybe if you want to double up and have one control. If you want to do a node that has kind of this longer one, and then you have these kind of overlaid, the long skinny ones, again, up to you. So that's working. Brightness, I just messed with that. Problem is, it's working in opposite, which is kind of not intuitive, but that's what happens when you're working with high. Oh, excuse me, I didn't have time to pause it, and I really don't want to edit that out. So, excuse me, I'm sorry. So, that's working. Crack spread. That's working. Yeah, so we have that option. Lastly, our fun little button here just to put the leaks everywhere. Let's see if we can get something. There we go. That is working. It definitely looks a little odd. It was kind of a secondary thought. Maybe take it out. But I wanted to show you switches. So I guess our cracks don't matter at this point. Yeah, it's definitely weird when it gets like that. It's weird too because it looks like it's reversing and going up. Now it's because it's hitting the stuff below it. Cool. So maybe we take that out and decide, you know what? Not what we're going for. But I just, again, wanted to add a switch in there for you guys to see the power of being able to add that extra option. Alright, so that's working pretty well. Alright, let's go ahead and save what we've done. Control S. Alright, let's do our last part, add our inputs here, and properly add an output. Now, we're just going to change this output from diffuse to mask. Just call this mask, call this mask, and good to go. Again, you could describe it. Oh, that's the channel. We're not going to do that right now. Go ahead and delete those outputs because we actually don't need them. And then go ahead and create our inputs, which we need 1 color input and 2 grayscale. Okay. Alright, so we need an ambient occlusion. Okay. We need a curvature. I would love it if these auto-filled based on what you select down there. Algorithmic, wink wink, nudge nudge. Because I'd rather change a name or not have to change a name, you know. I'd rather be like, oh, it says normal already, versus just adding whatever. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, shift to carry these over. That's going to be our normal input. So delete those. Alright, this actually doesn't need to be here anymore because that's going to be our ambient occlusion over yonder. Delete that. And lastly, our curvature. Actually, yeah, that's right. We don't need a curvature. And I forgot to add that button. So, if you expose this intensity, go here, expose. I'm just going to go to name it. We're going to name it line selection. And this will actually, this is very handy and something I'd mentioned in the last video. Is that having this gives you another form of control, which we're not going to be able to see anymore because we just destroyed everything else. I'll actually put that right there. Congratulations, my video's on YouTube. Fan-freaking-tastic. Alright, so that's saved. We're good. Now we're going to test it. We'll just go ahead and go to that test plate that I have. Again, if you're using the plate you made in the last one, this probably isn't going to work, which I apologize for. And we'll grab our leaks, drag them in, put in our inputs, which is normal map and ambient occlusion. And I have an ambient occlusion. Yes, I do. It's hiding. Way over yonder. Okay. And we're going to take over that other leaks that we already had there, which was not that one. Which was that one. Alright. So here goes our new leaks. Go ahead and take a look at what's going on. Let's go ahead and start editing it and see how it affects on a new node. Alright, so we have some craziness going. So we obviously don't want that. This could be the crack mask. Yep. Alright. Cavity too high? Doesn't seem to care about how much the cavity's in there. What about the brightness? Right. What I'm mainly looking at is this area in this corner. Oh. I'm sorry, that's off the texture page. I shouldn't look at the texture. I should look at the model. Alright. So let's continue to edit here. Let's drop that brightness. Noise contrast, noise level. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a little bit breaking. If you notice, it's falling too far off. Actually, sorry, it's actually partially how this one works, because water runs off of things. So, it works. That's kind of cool effect. We have too many lengths, I think. Oops. I'd really like to figure out why. Sometimes the samples work, and then, yeah, see right there, it breaks. So, there we go. I would say it works. It does some of the job that we're looking for. I would probably go back and do an adjustment here. And probably up the opacity, would it be? Let's see. To make our water actually change a bit more in there. I would basically want to try to get more of this light color into this section, so that it slightly influences the rest. Which I am doing here. I'm just trying to remember what direction. There we go. So it was that direction. So that's way the hell too much. Oh yeah. So this part, unfortunately, because of the way we were setting this up, if I actually had a test PSD or test target to use. That would have been better versus me using the that brick generator. But I just wanted to use something quick, and I didn't want to use this and make you feel left out. But I guess I'm making you kind of feel left out now. Maybe still a little bit too much, but don't forget we have this brightness. So maybe some, oh, there we go. I like that. Maybe drop the diffuse opacity and the color. That gross, like, yellowish orange, rust, calcium look, So there we go. So we tested on this, probably tested on a few more things, obviously, to make sure it completely works. But we can see here that it's working. Again, we could run through our sliders. We know this is, kind of crazy. Probably not the effect we would actually want. You could actually make that so it switches maybe to a given node that's going to, give you the look you want. You could switch it that way. I really do like that crack mask thing that I ended up making. It's actually not that bad. So you think about it, it's only going to run off, for the most part from the tops. It's not going to come from all these crazy corners, and now you can kind of fine tune it. Kind of like that. Line selection. So there's a lot of applications for this, obviously, not just leaks. You could use it for, moss running down something, kind of like that streaky, gross, like moss stuff. Yeah. All right, now I'm just playing with this a little bit too much, which happens. You'll make one of these sliders and sit there and try to fine tune it way too much instead of just being like, hey, good enough, move on. So there you go. You've now created a mask generator. Let's go over it one last time. Unfortunately, it is disconnected. So the steps to remember. First of all, how are you going to get your selection for the areas you're looking to affect? You're going to use cavities. Are you going to use a normal map? Are you going to use a ambient occlusion, a position map? A little bit of everything. Once you get kind of the color, don't forget you can use a gradient map to pinpoint a color. So if you're like, hey, I have this AO that is giving, or this cavity, that is giving me this certain color, and I need to pinpoint that color, bring it out, and then make it a mask. Gradient map's a great way to grab that color. Levels for the obvious, making levels adjustment. Histogram scans are your best friend when it comes to making a lot of these, because they are simple sliders that give you a lot of control, a lot of end user control. So once you figure out that selection, then you're going to try to figure out how you're going to spawn your effect. So is it going in one direction? Is it going in multiple directions? Is it just in the cracks? Things like that. And how are you going to spawn it there? You've selected the thing, now you need to spawn the stuff. So that's what we have going on down here. And then lastly, you have what buttons are you going to expose to allow your artists and other users to use, including yourself, when using it. So basically usability. And then lastly, I guess we would actually put our description. Go ahead and put your author as Rich. Put an icon if you want an actual picture. And then you'll be good to go. And you have yourself a node. Again, try to leave your notes in here for people backwards engineering your stuff, people who are at work that need to adjust your node. They need to know where you left off. So it's kind of an important thing. There you go. Please ask questions and leave comments. Maybe some videos you guys want to see. Please don't say FX nodes. And we'll go from there. We'll see if I post more videos after this. Hopefully. Alright, take care. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned.